Key events leading to restoration. Edward IV's restoration to the throne was marked by a series of decisive military and political maneuvers. In March 1471, Edward landed in England with a small force, quickly gaining support as he marched through the country. His return was facilitated by widespread discontent with the Lancastrian regime, which had been restored under Henry VI during Edward's exile. The turning point came with the Battle of Barnet on April 14, 1471. Edward's forces clashed with those of Warwick in a fog-shrouded conflict that resulted in a decisive Yorkist victory. Warwick, the formidable kingmaker, was killed in battle, effectively ending the immediate threat to Edward's rule. Following the victory at Barnet, Edward moved swiftly to confront the remaining Lancastrian forces. The Battle of Tewkesbury, fought on May 4, 1471, saw Edward decisively defeat the Lancastrians, effectively quashing their resistance. The capture and subsequent execution of key Lancastrian leaders, including the young Prince Edward of Westminster, solidified Edward's restored authority. With the Lancastrian threat neutralized, Edward IV re-entered London, where he was formally restored to the throne. His return marked the beginning of his second reign, characterized by a renewed focus on consolidating power and securing his dynasty's future. Second reign, 1471 to 1483. Edward IV's second reign, from 1471 until his death in 1483, was marked by a period of relative stability and consolidation. Having overcome the immediate threats to his rule, Edward focused on strengthening his government, improving the economy, and securing his dynasty's future. This period also saw important developments in both domestic and foreign policy, re-establishing control over England. After his restoration, Edward IV moved swiftly to consolidate his power and secure his position as king. He took measures to eliminate remaining Lancastrian threats and ensure loyalty among the nobility. Edward's approach was multifaceted, involving both military actions and strategic political maneuvers. One of Edward's first actions was to secure the capital, London, and reassert his authority over the government and the nobility. He worked to restore order and stability, which had been severely disrupted during the civil wars. Edward's strong leadership and effective administration helped to stabilize the kingdom and reduce the likelihood of further rebellions. To ensure loyalty among the nobility, Edward implemented a policy of patronage, rewarding his supporters with lands, titles, and positions at court. This strategy not only secured the loyalty of powerful nobles, but also helped to integrate them into his government, reducing the likelihood of opposition. Key figures in Edward's court, such as his brother Richard, Duke of Gloucester, and William, Lord Hastings, played crucial roles in maintaining the stability of his reign. Domestic policies and governance. Edward IV's domestic policies focused on restoring law and order, improving the economy, and enhancing the efficiency of the administration. His efforts in these areas contributed to the relative stability and prosperity of his second reign. One of Edward's key domestic initiatives was the restoration of law and order. He sought to curb the power of overmighty subjects and ensure that justice was administered fairly and consistently. Edward reformed the judicial system, strengthening the role of the King's Bench and other courts, and took measures to reduce corruption and improve the administration of justice. Edward also focused on improving the economy. He implemented measures to increase crown revenues, streamline tax collection, and address financial mismanagement. Edward's financial reforms helped to stabilize the economy and provided the resources necessary to maintain his court and fund his military campaigns. In addition to these reforms, Edward worked to enhance the efficiency of the government. He improved the organization and functioning of the royal council, ensuring that it operated more effectively. Edward also sought to reduce the influence of powerful noble factions and promote capable administrators and officials who were loyal to him. Foreign policy and relations with other nations. Edward IV's foreign policy was characterized by a mix of diplomacy and military action, aimed at securing England's interests and enhancing its position in Europe. His key objectives included securing alliances, protecting trade interests, and asserting English influence on the continent. One of Edward's major foreign policy achievements was the negotiation of the Treaty of Picquigny with Louis XI of France in 1475. This treaty ended a period of hostilities between England and France and provided for a substantial pension to be paid to Edward in exchange for renouncing his claims to the French throne. The Treaty of Picquigny was a significant diplomatic success, as it secured peace with France and provided much-needed financial resources. Edward also sought to strengthen England's ties with Burgundy, a key ally in his efforts to counter French influence. His sister, Margaret of York, was married to Charles the Bold, Duke of Burgundy, solidifying this important alliance. Edward's relationship with Burgundy helped to protect English trade interests and provided a valuable counterbalance to French power. In addition to these alliances, Edward pursued a policy of active engagement in European affairs. He supported various military and diplomatic initiatives aimed at protecting English interests and enhancing its influence. Edward's foreign policy was marked by a pragmatic approach, balancing military action with strategic alliances and negotiations, major conflicts, and their resolutions. While Edward IV's second reign was generally more stable than his first, it was not without conflicts and challenges. Edward faced several significant threats, both internal and external, which he successfully navigated through a combination of military action and political maneuvering. One of the major conflicts during this period was the ongoing threat from the Lancastrian faction. Although the Lancastrian cause had been largely defeated, pockets of resistance remained. Edward took decisive action to eliminate these threats, including the capture and execution of Henry VI, which effectively ended the Lancastrian claim to the throne. Edward also faced challenges from within his own family. His brother, George, Duke of Clarence, who had previously allied with Warwick against Edward, continued to be a source of instability. Clarence's ambitions and erratic behavior ultimately led to his downfall. In 1478, Edward had Clarence arrested, tried, and executed for treason, removing a significant internal threat to his rule. Externally, Edward faced ongoing tensions with Scotland. He conducted several military campaigns to assert English influence and protect the northern border. Edward's efforts in Scotland were part of a broader strategy to secure England's borders and maintain stability in the region. Personal life and character. Edward IV's personal life and character played a significant role in shaping his reign and legacy. His marriage to Elizabeth Woodville, his relationships with family and courtiers, and his personality traits all influenced his rule and the stability of his kingdom. Marriage and family. Edward IV's marriage to Elizabeth Woodville was both a romantic and political turning point in his life. Elizabeth, the widow of a Lancastrian supporter, was of relatively modest noble birth compared to Edward. Their marriage in 1464 was controversial and caused a significant rift within Edward's court, particularly with Richard Neville, Earl of Warwick, who had hoped to arrange a more advantageous match for Edward. Elizabeth Woodville's influence grew considerably after her marriage to Edward. She was crowned queen in 1465, and her large family quickly rose to prominence, securing key positions and advantageous marriages. The elevation of the Woodvilles caused resentment among the established nobility, leading to political tensions and contributing to the instability that marked Edward's reign. Despite the controversies, Edward and Elizabeth had a large family. They had 10 children, though only 7 survived infancy. Their children included Elizabeth of York, who would later marry Henry VII, uniting the warring houses of York and Lancaster and founding the Tudor dynasty. Edward's sons, Edward V and Richard of Shrewsbury, Duke of York, became central figures in the tragic story of the Princes in the Tower. Personal traits and leadership style. Edward IV was known for his imposing physical presence and charismatic personality. Standing over 6 feet tall, he was a commanding figure who inspired loyalty and admiration among his followers. His physical prowess and skills as a warrior were well documented, contributing to his reputation as a formidable military leader. Edward's leadership style combined decisiveness with pragmatism. He was capable of making bold and swift decisions, particularly in matters of war and governance. His ability to adapt to changing circumstances and his willingness to compromise when necessary were key factors in his success as a ruler. Despite his strengths, Edward's reign was not without flaws. His favoritism towards the Woodville family created significant political divisions, and his sometimes impulsive decisions led to conflicts with powerful nobles. Additionally, Edward's indulgent lifestyle and penchant for luxury sometimes strained the royal finances and led to criticism. Before we wrap up, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel in order to explore more about medieval history. Check out our other videos on the channel or share your thoughts and questions in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Thanks for joining us on this journey through time. Stay curious and keep exploring.